Hello everyone, and welcome back to the extra videos for Let's Play the Journeyman Project 2, Buried in Time. Last time we looked at Agent 5 breaking house arrest, and now we have wonderfully moved into the symbiotic technology discussions. What to do about time travel? It's a real thing. How do we feel about it? What should be done about it?
Orylen will return after a word from our sponsor.
La peinture fraîche.
Jote latvande.
Sasta gorscht.
If you hadn't understood those important messages, you would have just
Wet thing.
screwed up your best suit,
The flippity van van.
driven off of a cliff,
Cheap meat.
been poisoned,
Restaurant smoking in the lobby.
and peed your pants on a foreign planet. Yes, for all those reasons and more, there's the Omniglot DM dual-mode translator biochip from Samco. Just pop the Omniglot DM into any standard biotech interface and voila! No more frustration, no more confusion. The Omniglot DM instantly translates the written and spoken forms of any known language. It does it all! The Omniglot DM translator biochip from Samco. Get it today!
Samco Translator Biochip available at Frugal's and other fine stores for a low price of $199.90 or over ShopNet. Product order code 689222378. 689222378. Order now.
The heads of ministry will continue to meet with symbiotry representatives today in the Assembly Hall of the United Ministry Complex. These talks were requested by several member races as a forum in which to discuss the place of time travel technology in the symbiotry of peaceful beings. Today marks the beginning of the third week of negotiations, yet there is still no end in sight. Sarah Michaels is standing by at the United Ministry Complex with a report.
Thank you, Mark. The main factor protracting the discussions is the inability of the symbiotry to decide what should be done with the technology. The representatives have formed three distinct factions whose strongly opposing views have caused them to remain tenaciously entrenched in a deadlock. While one group believes we are committing the unforgivable act of hoarding a vital technology, a second supports the symbiotry tenet that each race has sovereignty over its own technologies. The third contingent, which has grown in strength since the arrest of Agent 5, contends that time travel represents a threat to every race of the symbiotry and should be destroyed altogether. Even though most attending races strongly disagree with humanity's sole ownership of the technology, our heads of ministry refuse to acknowledge their arguments, citing its inevitable misuse as their foremost concern. Therefore, barring symbiotry action, it is unlikely that the status of time travel as a proprietary technology of Earth will change.
So there we have it. We have three different viewpoints of what to do with time travel. I really love this kind of thing because it really takes time travel as a serious idea. And a lot of times I've seen with video games, they really just don't. They kind of just push it away on the wayside. It's just like, this happened, this didn't happen, and doesn't kind of really explain it. This is actually something that could possibly be a real thing in the future. But anyway, let's get on to the first argument, which is sharing the technology among the symbiotry.
The opinion originally held by the majority of races represented at the talks is that time travel technology is an invaluable tool for self-discovery and, as such, should not be denied to any race. However, the Loxoni abandoned this position last week in favor of destroying the technology. Presumably, this sudden change of opinion was due in large part to the arrest of Agent 5, an unfortunate illustration of the danger of time travel. The Daughton and Zang-Traqar, on the other hand, have continued to cling tightly to their convictions. They're of the opinion that this technology is far too important to be buried because of paranoia. Time travel, the Zang-Traqar argue, is like any other powerful tool. It represents a danger only if the user doesn't have the insight to take the proper precautions. And if care is taken, there should be no reason whatsoever to fear what should be the greatest advance the symbiotry has ever known. Perhaps Grandin Farlink, the Daughton emissary, stated the feelings of these two races most eloquently. At long last, he said, we can all be in touch with our pasts. Each race can now know the truths of its history. No longer must time be wasted with painstaking research and endless conjecture, only to arrive at an uncertain understanding of the events that shaped history. The answers, all the answers, lie within our reach if only we have the will to grasp for them.
And honestly, that is a perfect quote to understand why time travel is such an important tool. But anyway,
the opinion originally held.
Let's look at the alien races of the symbiotry. This is where we're getting all of the information on all of the different races. So let's start with the ones that left the appeal for sharing. The Loxoni. And always on the last page of every single planet and race, you get extra information on like their home planet, gravity, and a transport prefix that you can just pop into any sort of transporter and go to their planet, I guess.
The opinion
now let's look at the actual people who support sharing technology. The Orylen, for starters. And the second people are the Zang-Traqar, the more suspicious people.
The Daughton, perhaps.
Alright, so there is the people who are sharing. The Orylen and Zang-Traqar want everything to be shared, and the Orylen, being the gentle scientists, just perfect quotation for why time travel is wonderful. Now for the people who the appeal for denial is actually not what it's supposed to be meaning, because the point is that humans should keep sovereignty over time travel because it's a human technology. It should be theirs to control as a single being, and should not be something that's widespread.
Despite being recently abandoned by the Kryn, two of humanity's staunchest supporters, the Sorolans and the Tsar, have continued to defend our right to autonomy over time travel technology. Like those that favor dismantling it, these two races would rather leave their past buried than risk losing it altogether. But unlike the others, the Sorolans and Tsar believe that humanity harbors a maturity beyond its years and can be entrusted with preserving the sanctity of history. In fact, they suggest that our closeness to our violent past makes us even better suited to manage time travel, as the dire consequences of the misuse of technology still stain our racial memory. Unfortunately, theirs is a minority opinion. The prevailing response to this argument is that Earth's record with time travel speaks for itself. In just 10 years, there have already been incidents of deliberate historical sabotage, the latest of which allegedly involving an agent of the Temporal Security Agency. Our benefactors, however, dismissed the Elliott Sinclair and Gage Blackwood incidents as aberrant acts by disturbed individuals, rather than a weakness of humanity as a whole. And they ask, as a sign of good faith and trust in the newest member of the symbiotree, that the future of time travel technology be left to our discretion.
So do humans have the responsibility to control time travel on our own? The appeal for denial can be seen as a very traditionalist sort of argument in terms of the symbiotrie's form of ethics, because what the symbiotree tries to do is that they always have sovereignty over, like, one race has symbiotree over their own technology, and that's always how it's been. However, time travel is a bit more of a sensitive issue because of how dangerous and threatening it can be. Do humans have the ability to do this, or will they exploit it? So let's look at the one that apparently left. One of the more recent additions before the humans came in, the Kryn. The Kryn are pretty much the water race, the race of aliens who live in water. But now let's get into the ones that are very traditionalist. The oldest race of the symbiotree, the Sorolans. If you remember from the first game, the Sorolans were the ones who came to Caldoria and personally admitted us into the symbiotree in the first place. Being the oldest, of course, they'd be the most traditionalist of keeping the old ways. And the Sorolans could really be seen as... they're very... the description here says they can be compared easily to humans, and that they share a particular bond, like the youngest and newest races of the symbiotree. I kind of see it more as like their relationship being less of like a sibling relationship and more like the Sorolans are the father to the humans being the son. Kind of that way. Like a very caring and responsible kind of idea. Also, apparently they choose to exist for about this many years. The other ones are the Tsar.
Despite being recent...
Alright, so there's denial. Now, the final area is the appeal for dismantling it. Now, we've already seen that the Loxoni have left sharing, and the Kryn have left, denial. So, does that mean that both of those have went on to dismantling?
The third viewpoint, which was originally held only by the Unwa, is that the existence of time travel technology represents a threat to the history of every race in the symbiotree. For this reason, these races feel that all existing time machines should be completely dismantled. Following the arrest of Agent 5, the Loxoni changed their allegiance from petitioning for the release of time travel technology to requesting its destruction. They were joined by the Kryn, for whom this represents a break in their long-standing tradition of fervently supporting every race's right to sovereignty over its own technologies. The Loxoni now proclaim that if not destroyed, the technology must at the very least be put in the safekeeping of an elder race of the symbiotree. They cite security as their main concern. Like the others that share their goal, they feel that humanity lacks the necessary discretion to control such a powerful tool. As a side note, it should be mentioned that the Loxoni themselves are among the eldest races of the symbiotree.
Which is an interesting point to keep in note, because that would be something that would probably be a motivation. But it's obvious to see why the Loxoni changed their views, but it's not obvious to why the Kryn have. Because they were long-standing ones of sovereignty, and they were in the appeal of denial along with the Sarans Rollins. Why would... there's... like, in this blurb, it doesn't actually say anything about why they would instantly go to dismantling, other than the reason why they would simply say that all these incidents make it too dangerous, and the basic example. However, there's one more race to look at, the Unwa, who are the ones of mystery. Strange, mysterious, nomadic as well. They keep moving from place to place. They do not stay in places very long, so they don't actually have a place that is actually home, but they're currently on this planet. So that's kind of the idea there. So the results of the negotiations.
Despite the arguments made by the symbiotree envoys, the general opinion of the heads of ministry so far appears unswayed. Michael Rozhenko of the Northwest Asia Collective rebutted that the danger of time travel falling into the wrong hands and being used to change history, however slight, is still too great to even consider releasing the technology. It must be realized that time travel has not only the power to unlock the secrets of history, but also unparalleled potential for destruction. Few could argue that it would be foolish to give such a tool to anyone, regardless of its intended use. On the other hand, it's also too late for it to be destroyed, as was pointed out by Chancellor of Law Rick Allen, when he stated that the technology has already been created and can therefore be recreated. Chancellor Allen emphasized his point by attesting that if all known time travel technology were destroyed and a new time machine built without government knowledge or approval, there would be no way to intervene in the actions of the illicit time traveler. He would have free rein to rewrite history to his liking. Unfortunately, such scenarios are all too likely, as was proven by the Elliott Sinclair incident and the current trial of Gage Blackwood.
which is exactly what the editorial said. That if a new time machine was built, it's exactly what this says. So the TSA has to stay in working order. It can't be shut down, otherwise this happens. Elliot Sinclair was completely proves this, because he made a time machine and caused rips, which we had to solve because we were luckily on duty. Otherwise, he would have gotten away with everything. So that's it for the symbiotic technology discussions. I hope you've all learned something today! Hooray! But next time we're going to be going off a little bit off kilter here. Stop talking about time travel and actually talk about some current issues. Like the Louvre, which is apparently still operational 300 years into the future. See you next time, everyone!